Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This series is just spewing out assorted thought about boatloads of entertainment media. Some ideas are serious, others not so much. There will be spoilers for the series currently featured, but generally only vague references to any other connected ones in a shared universe. Now, with all that out of the way, here we go. Nico's paper cutout story does not include the Master Sword because he used all his blue/purple pieces for those oceans, walls, and stained glass windows. Ciela and her siblings are designed after OOG-style fairies because the Ocean King has visited many timelines before and happens to prefer glowy orb pixie people over tiny human lady ones. The latest hero assistant entity has no idea how long it takes for her person's body to decay into a skeleton because her own form isn't entirely physical. These safe zones must be generated by some more resistant parts of the Ocean King that have yet to be fully weakened by restraining Bella. Link's actually aware of how much work Lineback is doing operating the ship because he's been living on a pirate one for like a year or whatever. Although said vessel apparently doesn't have any engine, it probably still involved enough upkeep for Mr. Heroic Blower to understand his current captain's crap at least a little bit. The Temple of Fire is locked with a simple birthday bash breeze base barrier because higher powers don't want people with exceptionally poor lung capacity even attempting entering such an oddly arid place. Tiny Green Swordsman and Ginormous Ego Sailor are both required for trapped DD rescuing this time around because the Ocean King needs a more typically greedy person and traditional hero banded together to mystically generate all vital tools for saving his grandiose hide. The former would be who's wielding everything, while other dudes' material gain focus is what helped all puzzle fixers shape up. Mr. Magnificent Marine Monarch wouldn't be capable of full-on making things out of nothing, or even just outright giving that mind scan rendered junk to his rescue rangers directly, because holding big bad's back blows big ones. Anyway, the mental check of Hyrule's hero is why there's so much imagery resembling typical Zelda goddess hoopla. He simply knew such stuff would make this brave little dude at home, and at least subconsciously cause more motivation. Oshus doesn't initially gift the Hourglass both for virtue/determination testing purposes, and also because he didn't want Link grabbing it without charged sand. Perhaps it simply would be too fragile without anything inside. On that note, the smoothness starved stuff that tends to get many undesired places probably magically clung to Mr. Wendy's sword after a certain first boss got slain, since it didn't currently have a specialized receptacle. Something like the magical head honcho of this realm, picturing that blade he's gonna make later while winning was happening, resulted in a temporary storage deal. Or maybe sweat from being in a volcanic area made it stick to bodily places for a bit. These sand refills in the temple must exist because those golden jars are underneath surface-reaching cracks where particularly potent sunlight can get through. Somewhat odd hugeness of boss keys and force gems in this game may be the result of his oceanic-sized highness, not understanding what big is relative to Link and other normal human stature-having people when designing this world's puzzle challenges. The rear of Edo's shop is always open because it's a fire exit. New Postman is a literal bird person instead of a Rito because Oshus misinterpreted some things while magic scanning Link's brain, particularly how a certain Wind Waker held competition's name was just that. This hero on the Prince of Red Lines must only take a few hits at first because it's not until after these inaugural practice sessions that he goes and gets more heart containers. Link's ludicrous lightness, what with getting blown back and forth by various gusts oh so easily, may be caused by those Ocean King glimpse memories of using the Deculi, generating accidental magical crap wherein some of said tool's properties gets directly integrated into his fantastic physiology. These extra peepers installed within the Phantom's backs must be what enable them to use their eye buddies to spy on around corner intruders and what have you. Maybe whatever sorcery is used to animate these armored creatures involves that organ as an ingredient, and there's still enough mumbo-jumbo energy remaining to do some sort of soldier supplementing spell afterwards. Grand Temple subsections like these, with small swarms of enemies to defeat, must be training areas for those ghostly guardian goons. Edo must be asking for you to yell because he wants to check how his hearing's holding up after all that extra metal work that's been thrust before him lately. These octomines, as Lineback calls them, must have been scattered throughout the Ocean King's sea to take care of their namesake's big variant. This doesn't seem to have worked out too well though. Must have been too many of the things hanging around. Also, all artifacts at the ocean bottom may have been generated to help keep Lineback invested in this journey. This one-eyed big thingy that shows up near Molita Island after grabbing the Sun Key was probably sleeping near it. All that unexpected heavy metal noise must have woken the thing up and pissed it off. Sir Sinister Soldier Slayer's boss POV entering out-of-body experience may involve Ciela's trapped half, letting him know the best way to strike in a magical fourth wall leaning into kind of way. Courage Caretaker's mocking of Lineback upon entering the ghost ship is because, as a standing up to fear associate spirit, she knows teasing works best for pushing some people into a bravery-filled mindset. Stubbornness-rooted guts aren't any worse than self-pep talk-generated ones, after all. The Cubist sisters probably actually got killed by spiders long ago. This Link would be quite apt at recognizing liars because he's been living on a pirate ship for quite a while, notably one with a captain whose all-secret identity having even. Ocean King only relies on Lineback to help Link instead of pulling in the whole crew he's shacked up with because that second option might give Bellum extra life force to steal. What's-his-name would want to give Glad the Impaler a ship heart so he could customize that pirate one down the line after getting back home and everything. Also, he's far more comfortable casually communicating via letter over talking, because such methods are more routine for sea-staying sailors. Swift Phantom Formation must have occurred after Bellum converted the most recent ghost ship and all its stolen life force into them. Hearing bombs is less of a concern for these well-dressed, maybe sorta undead soldiers in most cases because their boss's frequent earthquake generating has made such noise uneventful. Wood hearts are probably used for creating this region's most common store-stocked shield. Courage gems are more spread out than the power and wisdom deals because Ciela splitting up made their scattering super screwy. The people on this island seem to know how to make potions from yellow chews, and also blue/red ones jammed together. Nobody anywhere seems to concoct only ocean-shaded ones around these parts though. Perhaps that one king's presence changes their properties so they're all mostly not consumable, as opposed to those more sun-shaded ones, sort of flipping the Great Sea situation. Perhaps explodey statues don't open their mouths this time around because they were designed to be fueled by grinding up stones that get sucked inside them through greater resembling oral cavities. This whole atypical snacking bit would backfire tremendously once shrapnel came into play. This sea world apparently doesn't contain sediment, which makes that peculiar clicking sound when struck with a sword. The brittle enough for bomb destruction one, to be more specific. The Yuke tribe's explosive failure causing deep breath weakness may actually not be a blatant tactical error. It could very well be simply that they must take in oxygen in these vast quantities on account of being so large, powerful, and extreme cold survival capable. They simply need way too much energy for everything. Gliak doesn't attack with both heads simultaneously because doing so results in a crossing the stream sort of situation getting inflicted upon its innards. The sort of Sasquatch who didn't know he knew about Harrow Island must have first learned this information while Bellum washed. Gongoron's gift of a courage gem must have originally been some father-handed reward for helping Link get that pure metal. Teleport phantoms are only a thing deep within this temple because they must draw lots of power from both Bellum and the Ocean King together in order to be made and continually harness their abilities. Multiple signs informing people what force gems are pop up because less legendary lot would have taken years to descend deep down enough. Folks who haven't gone through enough puzzle-filled dungeons might not exactly have the same knack for it as Green Good Guy does after all. Lineback must get the money for these rewards he gives Link by selling all those swords Jolene drops. Sizable Sour Sea Saurus shows up again following fetching finalization because all the dirty hands coming into contact with each other during those trades generate a scent similar to its precious Sun King. Link mostly forgot how to perform the Great Spin Attack after Wind Waker's events because Tetra wouldn't let him practice said maneuver on her ship since it poses such a huge wrecking risk. Also, Nico might have tried copying it, and that'd be really annoying. Harnessing humongous hammers, especially ethereally extra enlarged examples for normal tasks, is how those Cobble Kingdom Knights got so beefy. That whole gather 3 important things, get fancy new weapon deal applies to the Phantom Sword because struggling trapped Oshus could only gather enough holy new dad generating whatnot if Link bulked up again himself. On top of making Might Muscle's Meteor and Brave Bits Buffer being a great source for raw mystical power drawing, magically scanning the specific structure of this stereotypical errand running would allow Lentus Lord to generate a new weakness for Bellum. Sort of what like Zelda and fairies sometimes do with arrows made of light and or precious metals. The deceased king was able to pen and send a letter because he temporarily possessed some random Salphos or whatever. Huge fish shadows don't show up until the Wayfarer mentions Neptuna, because Link just assumed any large dark blobs he saw in this ocean were other giant monster related. Also, any finned forms caught in contrasting shade locales, like skippy jacks on huge sails and swordfish jutting out of tiny ones, are a result of everybody on board being all tuckered out from sailing so long. Even legendary heroes go through stress hallucinations or whatever. This Phantom Blade kills its namesake bearing prey, because the holiness of pure metal can smite all evil. Boulders do the deed because there's not enough armor left for Bellum to possess after smashing. The Ocean King can reward tiny trinkets after a floor of those plated annoyance devils gets slain because of little power bits he regains while his captors all shook up. Link's able to hold oh so many rupees now because of a fancy new wallet he found on his pirating adventures and nifty tricks learned from crewmates. Lord Water's somewhat more than slight power restoration is because Bellum being expelled from the temple has at least stopped his physical body from getting demon drained. hence why he can teleport with greater ease and restore Tetra, but not bring anybody home yet. On a related note, those moments when head villain Lieutenant Boss dudes and their hordes getting slayed in dungeons produce portals are because these actions allow the Ocean King to draw on said area's holy powers and work a little, very isolated magic. Also, the continued soul sucking from his tentacled nemesis is why he can never make a two-way wormhole in his own temple, like the other one, even after this foe has left the building. If Linebeck truly got caught showing that he's generally grown to care for Tetra and Link, he would have continued his totally selfish facade by saying that learning she's actually a princess, and thus likely rich, is the real concern. Who's actually asking about saving before final battle time is the Ocean King. From his perspective, such stuff is merely temporal junk warping that he can perform by amplifying power with that nifty hourglass. Captain secretly loves everyone, resists possession by making his body perform techniques similar to the ones he's seen Jolene lose to Link with dozens of times. Hence the preference for getting into sword clashes that end in failure. Focusing on the only person he cares about who's not currently present really helps him barely stay conscious. And also lets Link win easier since she never could. Anyway, this great spin copy is a thing because Balam found out about its real counterpart by reading one of those ghost mines located in a certain often visited holy place. One of those dead dudes had to have read that worn-out scroll at some point. Finding a new land must be that one wish the Ocean King gives to Zelda and Link. At the very least, his powers help provide King Daphnis No Hansen Hyrule's goal of them being all hope having gained enough resistance to evil that jerks like this game's main villain could no longer interfere with their journey before natural life-ending time got all up in their faces. Also, Linebeck's seemingly not-so-grand desire of getting his ship back is kinda really a big deal because it pulled the new green-clad buddy collected treasure stuff garnered from the Ocean King's world into normal reality. The bow's a bit stronger now because Link's aim has gotten more precise after much practice that was inspired by Zelda's coolness with it during Wind Waker's final battle. Spooky ship station Sinister Spirit Sisters and their Dead Man's Volley obsession was probably formed by scanning Tetra's brain for the event that last occurred right before her and Link's previous reunion, a certain final battle with Phantom Ganon. The Ocean King's lair throne room stair deal appears rather similar to where that windfish dude hangs out. Perhaps this type of a boat is simply what whale gods prefer. Levias didn't have one in Skyward Sword because that parasite problem he was experiencing made him destroy it during a moment of blind rage-filled shenanigans. Ciela being a spirit of time and courage could very well be because Osha shaped much of her current form from hero Noggin-found stories regarding that one dude who saved the world hundreds of years ago, all decked out in green while holding a special ocarina. The way wizard whales work must be by making relatively tiny reality warps in their nearby areas. Just like this dude has a little pocket dimension sea some folks can wander into on occasion, Levias maintains Skyloft's gravity-defying shenanigans, while Mr. Atypical Blowfish makes island vacation dreams come true. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.